The Ukrainian and the Russian people are currently more divided than ever before in history, and to me as a Russian who left the country, it makes a lot of sense. Russia has invaded Ukraine, has occupied a lot of their territories, and is doing terrible shit on a daily basis, okay? So it makes sense to me as a Russian why some Ukrainians might not have a very favorable opinion of Russia and Russians right now. And with everything that has happened in the recent years, it feels like it is very hard to rebuild this relationship between Russians and Ukrainians and make them agree on something once again. Well guys, Donald Trump begs to differ because he's done exactly that. What I'm seeing right now on the internet is that supposedly there's a lot of common ground and understanding being built between Russians and Ukrainians based on collectively hating the United States of America. At least there's some solidarity in memes, okay? Just to be clear, by the way, when I say that Ukrainians now hate America, I'm not coming at it from the angle of JD Vance, talking about you didn't even say thank you once. No, I am definitely not a fan of JD Vance. I have an IQ that is higher than 60, so... But being serious, with everything that's been going on recently with Russia, Ukraine, and America, with this entire, peace plan and peace talks that have turned into a complete circus, and taking into account how a lot of people in Trump's cabinet, like JD Vance once again, Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, a lot of these people are saying things right now that are pretty much just Russian propaganda talking points ripped straight out of Kremlin's playbook. A lot of Ukrainians right now, even those who held a lot of respect and gratitude for the United States, they are currently pretty disappointed with the United States government. Because Russia and America are best friends now and they have, collectively shared traditional values or whatever, with two genders.
Thank you, USA, you are my best friend.
So, hey there people, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian, and in today's video guys, we are going to discuss how Russians and Ukrainians are currently almost bonding over their shared disappointment and dislike of America, and we're also going to take a look at some incredible memes. Now, a lot of these Ukrainian memes are actually sort of based on the anti-American stuff and propaganda that Russia would put out, except ironically flipped on its head. Let's check out the first example here.
Зрозумій, суко, ми українці. Ми йдемо по тебе. Це наша земля.
This right here seems to be a menu in a coffee shop in Ukraine, and this person here is taking away the name Americano from the list in the menu, okay? And this right here is the exact same thing, a menu from some coffee shop in Ukraine. You can see here on top espresso, doppio, whatever, filter, and here Americano has been replaced on top of it with Europiano. So the coffee has been renamed from American to European. And also supposedly a coffee shop in Canada has changed Americano to Canadiano, so... Now some people are probably already triggered, but here's where I deliver the punchline. This right here is an ironic thing, making fun of how some Russians reacted in 2014 to America's sanction in Russia as a result of Crimea being annexed. Essentially, back in the day, we had a bunch of people posting and showing online how, in their coffee shop, they have replaced the word Americano coffee, with Russiano. Yes, Russian coffee. So, there's like a ton of photos of this on the internet, and there's some apparently coffee shops that still have this in Russia, and the whole thing was basically done as a sort of cringe boycott. And essentially to, show these Westerners that we don't need your American stuff, we can, name stuff our own way. And in fact, even the Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev, who's now known for being Super Z, he has endorsed this idea.
Восточный кофе помогает.
Да. Но последний раз был не восточный кофе. Между прочим, променял восточный кофе, говорит, дайте мне американо. Это вообще не политкорректно. Давайте американо переименуем. Руссиано.
So yes, you guys basically get it. Ukrainians are pretty much currently doing the exact same thing ironically because it is the meme now that Ukraine is now actually the true anti-imperialist, anti-American country, not Russia. So here's for example another one, a Ukrainian meme saying, "This is the only country that did not bow down to the United States of America." Obviously, once again, this is something that a Russian Z-patriot would say about Russia, how Russia doesn't care and it's the only country that is able to stand up to the evil West. Well, guess what? Now Russia and America are friends. Again, another great one. There's so many layers to this, I kinda need to explain it a little bit, but essentially what you're seeing here is a car with a huge rocket on top that says, towards Washington. And, long story short, essentially in Russia we have a weird political organization that is also kind of a sect called NOD, or the National Liberation Movement. They are super supportive of Vladimir Putin. They say that Russia is actually like a colony of the United States and Putin is the only one that's trying to change that or whatever, and how we need to destroy America and everything. They are basically the Russian QAnon. going on, and yes, they do go around and parade around a car, an old Lada Vasmyorka, with a big-ass rocket on top that stays towards Washington. So essentially they are making a point saying that we need to nuke Washington DC. That's essentially what these people are saying. And actually that poor old Lada is known as Sarmat Mobil. Sarmat is like a Russian nuclear warhead, and this is essentially the Ukrainian version of it. Now, since Ukraine is the worst, enemy of the USA and Russia is best friends with the USA, here we have the exact same thing, as of logo in the back. Here it says Ukraine Mobile or Ukraine Car. Big flag of Ukraine photoshopped on top, and also, obviously this photo is taken in Russia, probably Moscow or something, so here they photoshopped like a new post, Ukrainian post here, and also Puzata Khata, which is like a Ukrainian restaurant. So yes, what can I say? Absolutely glorious. I love it. Also, there's a lot of memes going around right now essentially saying that Russia and the United States are the actual brotherly nations that have, one language, one faith, one people, whatever. Also, obviously making fun of the fact how, once again, Russians love to talk about how the United States are the ones who drove the wedge between these brotherly nations and, they've destroyed everything for us, they've ruined everything, they've turned Ukrainians against Russia. And obviously, though, yeah, the meme is that, no, it's actually Ukraine that's driving the wedge between Russia and the US, because Russia and US are best friends.
Thank you, USA.
Oh, and by the way, in Russia, since like 2014, 2015, it's fashionable for some dumb Z people to put stickers on their car. Initially, it was saying Obama chmo, which means Obama sucks or Obama is a jerk. And then when Trump became president in 2016, Russians started putting Trump chmo on their cars, saying that Trump is a jerk, actually. So, I guess now all the Russians that have these terrible sayings on their cars have to remove them because, well, you do have to respect our wonderful, friendly neighbors from the West. Our greatest allies,
You are my best friend.
I also really enjoyed this one right here. This here is actually the Instagram accounts of Zelenskyy's comedy show, like his comedy brand, I guess. Because Zelenskyy was a comedian and an actor before becoming president, so he actually has his own kind of media conglomerate or whatever, called Kvartal 95, and they posted this recently here, So again, this needs some explanation, there's some lore here. Yes, you're seeing an AI, obviously, picture of a piano saying Trump on it, and you guys might think, what does this mean? They don't know, guys. They don't know. Those who know. Those who know. Essentially, this right here was posted right after the press conference, the disaster between Trump, J.D. Vance, and Zelenskyy. And this here is actually a reference to an old famous sketch, a joke that Zelenskyy actually had in his program that he played himself. Basically, the context here is that the joke involved Zelenskyy standing in front of a piano, sort of acting like his pants are down. And the whole meme was that he's essentially playing the piano with his penis that is erect. Okay, so that is the joke that Zelenskyy had, and this here was posted on the next day after the disastrous press conference, showing once again that, this is essentially what Ukrainians think of Donald Trump, and I think, fair, I totally agree. You guys get it, right? You guys get it. Absolute cinema, I love it. The memes that have been coming out of this are incredible. And also, you've probably heard that Trump supposedly wants like rare earth minerals from Ukraine. And actually what happened is that Vladimir Putin, in response, said that actually Russia has a lot of rare earth minerals as well or whatever, and we can give them to the United States, so... Obviously, this is all fucking it's beyond irony how the entirety of Russia's propaganda and messaging is built how Vladimir Putin is not going to sell out Russia to the West and to Americans. And now Vladimir Putin wants to do exactly that. And he's already selling the country out to China, by the way, but let's not mention that. So we have this right here, for example, once again, Vladimir Putin playing like a good little boy, playing into Trump's hand, while Zelenskyy, being the GIGACHAD-based, independent leader, can't tell Donald Trump to fuck off. So, yes, this is basically real. So yeah, you guys basically get it. All of these memes that have been coming out from Russia and Ukraine recently have been absolutely kino. But now I do want to get a little bit more serious because, you see, I don't want to leave any wrong impression with this video, but also I do want to elaborate. And look, I don't particularly want to draw any parallels, but I feel like on just the basic human experience, I do feel like we can draw a parallel between what Ukrainians are experiencing right now compared to what Russians, and especially anti-war Russians, experienced at the very start of the war, right? And obviously I'm not trying to equate the two, But hear me out, okay? On this channel previously I went into great detail how a lot of Russians, especially obviously those Russians who have never liked Vladimir Putin, who have always felt as outcasts in Vladimir Putin's regime, who never supported Russia's actions towards Ukraine and so on. After the start of the war, I do think that a lot of these anti-war Russians felt betrayed by the West to a certain degree, and let me explain what I mean. So, first of all, for Russians like myself who left Russia immediately almost, the West did kind of put a lot of roadblocks in place for us to leave Russia. First of all was obviously the suspension of Visa and MasterCard in Russia, which basically meant that Russians were now unable to use their Russian Visa or MasterCard cards anywhere abroad, and that is still the case. Russian bank accounts and Russian cards are pretty much useless anywhere but Russia, right? And for all of these people who were trying to leave Russia, this created a lot of issues. The sanctions, the visa restrictions, overall, you know, all these things were applied to Russians, you know, regardless of their stance, their ideas, you know, whatever. Essentially, if you're a Russian citizen, you wrapped what Vladimir Putin has sold. Okay, even if you don't agree with it. And for a lot of Russians who actually felt like they are kind of on the West side in a way, or who at least felt like maybe the West kind of coincides with their beliefs more, or at least the West will support them in being anti-Putin Russians or whatever, essentially that dream has kind of died and it never happens. And in general, Russians online, even including anti-war Russians who spoke out in support of Ukraine, a lot of them got an insane amount of hate from clueless Westerners who don't know anything about Russia. And so Westerners were essentially coming at Russians saying, you are all slaves, you all like to bow down to the Tsar, you cannot do anything, you cannot tell your Tsar to stop, you cannot stop the war, you're not protesting, you're all just terrible people who are all complicit with everything that Vladimir Putin is doing, which is very ironic, by the way, considering what is happening right now to America and how it seems like, you know, Americans can't really stop it or say no to their Tsar, right? A lot of Russians heard this stuff, and actually a lot of them are kind of holding a grudge against the West almost, or Westerners, for saying all this shit, you know what I mean? I mean, look, even I, as somebody who has been outspokenly against Putin for years, even before the war started on the channel, I was getting like death threats, people telling me to kill myself, that, you know, I should kill my entire family or whatever, because I'm like a terrible Z-Russian who supports the war, which was never the case. And I also want to bring up a point that some people might not agree with, but in the West and in Ukraine also, there's a big idea that, you know, a lot of Russians, or most Russians, are super Z, super pro-Putin, you know, they all hate Ukrainians, they want to take over Ukraine. But the truth is that there's actually a very big amount of Russians who do care, who want the best for Ukraine, who have a lot of solidarity with Ukraine, who really care about what happens to Ukraine's people. And ironically enough, even though the West and America, or whatever, is supposed to care in cases like this, we're seeing right now that the truth is that a lot of Westerners just don't care, and a lot of Russians who are supposedly OZ or pro-Putin or whatever, they actually care and are more pro-Ukrainian than a lot of these Westerners out there, especially, you know, these Americans that we're seeing around right now, you know, MAGA people who are essentially saying, let's cut all funding to Ukraine, Ukraine is a fake country, you know, proxy war, money laundering, Elon Musk, what Elon Musk is saying basically. You have all these kinds of people, right, and it only makes you think that maybe a lot of these Westerners never really did care, and also you've alienated a lot of your supporters right away, right? I don't know, just food for thoughts. So a lot of Russians felt kind of betrayed by the West. A lot of them just kind of felt like, you know, they don't care. They think we're all terrible and disgusting, so, you know, fuck them. A lot of Russians actually went like this. There's a lot of people who are like, oh, actually I was pro-Ukraine and anti-war, but then I've seen some bad comments online, and now I'm fully Z and I support Vladimir Putin, right? I think that is a very juvenile way to look at the world. But nevertheless, you know, people are complex creatures with a lot of emotions. So this happened anyway. And right now with everything that's going on and how America is treating Ukraine, it feels like double heartbreak to me, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because initially it was like, I kind of went through the arc of having left Russia and then receiving all this shit, receiving all this hate and kind of going, you know, whatever, I don't care about, you know, these haters. I feel like it's better to be on the side of humanity and, you know, normalcy. And now I almost feel like it's like a second heartbreak, a second fucking stab in the back from the West in a way, because now, not only have they fucked us, but they've also fucked Ukrainians, which, you know, you would expect that Ukrainians are a group that they would not fuck over, but they still are doing it. So, you know, as an anti-war Russian, I'm just kind of feeling like, you know, like there's really no place for me almost. And I feel like a lot of Ukrainians are probably going through a similar thing right now. I don't want to speak for all Ukrainians, obviously, but I do think that, you know, the level of cynicism and sort of irony, and I don't know, it just seems to me like there's a lot of disappointment, and Ukrainians are definitely going to be looking at America in a different light now, right? Once again, not hating them, but also essentially knowing that, you know, they are far, far from perfect, and that sometimes they can be outright horrible. So in this video, I'm not trying to come at this whole thing overall from the lens of like a Z-Vatnik Russian who's like, you know, America is the worst country in the world that is always morally in the wrong, Russia is always morally correct and is sinless, you know, has never done anything wrong. And look, we Russians, we've been telling you Ukrainians, right? We've been telling you that. Just you wait, America is going to betray you and leave you on a sidewalk. And now it's finally happening. Ha 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 ha, I was so correct. No, that is absolutely not my angle, okay? Yes, guys, what can I say? We live in truly incredible, unprecedented times. This entire whole thing was a big, massive plan by Vladimir Putin to actually unite the peoples of Russia and Ukraine. There you go, guys. That's what actually happens. No, it didn't, but like, this whole thing is fucking insane, man. I just think what's currently happening is fucking sad, so I'm just trying to bring a little bit of light to your day. No matter if you're Russian, Ukrainian, if you're a Westerner, okay? What I'm saying is, it's kind of funny when, you know, memes can unite us, and even Russians and Ukrainians can kind of see eye to eye on certain things. In a little bit of a weird way, but still, you know what I mean? So yeah, that is gonna be pretty much it for today's video. That's all I have to say. I hope that you guys did enjoy it. If you guys did, then please make sure to slap the like button on it. As well, guys, if you'd like to support me additionally, donate. You can either do a super thanks on this video or go down to the link in the description, become a YouTube member. It's the best way to support me. Yeah, guys, that is gonna be pretty much it. I'm gonna see you in the next one, and peace.